Welcome to what is happening today with Crowning Thoughts. Santiago DC Maria Truth Speaker.
24 hours after ICE killed a woman, Congress moved to impeach Kristi Noem in a blistering turn of events that exposes the rotten core of MAGA extremism. The nation awoke to the horrifying reality that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, agents, under the iron-fisted influence of Kristi Noem, have become nothing short of state-sanctioned assassins. Just 24 hours after an ICE raid in South Dakota turned deadly, claiming the life of Maria Gonzalez, a brave 42-year-old community organizer who dared to shield vulnerable families from deportation, Congress erupted in righteous fury, introducing articles of impeachment against Noem. Let us say it like it is. Noem turned ICE agents into a murder weapon against anyone who protects America and civilians that Noem does not like. This is not law enforcement. This is targeted execution wrapped in the flag of nationalism, a grotesque perversion of justice that demands accountability now. The tragedy unfolded in the pre-dawn hours of January 7, 2026, in a quiet suburb outside Sioux Falls, where Gonzalez, a naturalized U.S. citizen of Mexican descent, had organized a safe haven for undocumented immigrants fleeing the escalating crackdowns of the current administration. Witnesses describe a scene of chaos and brutality. ICE agents, clad in tactical gear and armed to the teeth, stormed the makeshift shelter without warning. Gonzalez, unarmed and standing her ground, positioned herself between the agents and a group of terrified children. According to eyewitness accounts corroborated by bodycam footage leaked to independent journalists, an agent fired a single shot that struck Gonzalez in the chest, killing her instantly. The official report claims accidental discharge during resistance, but video evidence paints a damning picture of deliberate aggression. This was no accident. This was murder, cold and calculated, fueled by the dehumanizing rhetoric that Noem and her MAGA allies have spewed for years. Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota and a darling of the far-right fringe, has long positioned herself as the enforcer-in-chief of draconian immigration policies. Elevated to national prominence under the shadow of Donald Trump's influence, Noem has transformed her state into a testing ground for authoritarian tactics. Remember, this is the woman who bragged about shooting her own dog in her memoir, a chilling admission that foreshadowed her willingness to wield violence as a tool of control. Under her guidance, South Dakota has become a magnet for ICE operations, with Noem personally lobbying for expanded federal powers to detain and deport without due process. She has turned ICE into her personal militia, deploying them not just against immigrants, but against American citizens who dare to show compassion. Gonzalez's death is the inevitable outcome of Noem's playbook. Label protectors as enemies of the state. Arm agents with impunity and watch the bodies pile up, but the backlash was swift and unforgiving. Within hours of the killing, social media exploded with outrage, hashtags trending worldwide as activists, celebrities, and ordinary citizens demanded justice. Progressive leaders in Congress, led by Representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Jamie Raskin, wasted no time. By the evening of January 8, 2026, the House Judiciary Committee convened an emergency session, unveiling impeachment articles that accuse Noem of high crimes and misdemeanors, including abuse of power, incitement to violence, and violation of civil rights. Kristi Noem has blood on her hands, thundered Ocasio-Cortez during a fiery press conference. She has weaponized federal agencies to terrorize communities, turning protectors into targets. This impeachment is not just about one death, it's about dismantling the MAGA machine that thrives on fear and division. The impeachment push, while unprecedented for a sitting governor, hinges on Noem's deep entanglements with federal operations. Legal experts point to her role in coordinating ICE raids through interstate compacts, effectively making her a de facto arm of the Department of Homeland Security. Constitutional scholars argue that Congress has jurisdiction under the 14th Amendment to hold state officials accountable for federally enabled atrocities. Noem crossed the line from state governance to federal complicity, explained Professor Elena Ramirez of Harvard Law School in a scathing op-ed. By directing ICE agents to act as her enforcers, she has invited congressional oversight and now impeachment. The articles detail a pattern of behavior, Noem's public endorsements of zero tolerance, policies that ignore human rights, her refusal to investigate prior ICE abuses in her state, and her inflammatory speeches that equate immigration advocacy with treason. This is the tipping point in a long saga of MAGA overreach. Let's rewind to the roots of this nightmare. Noem rose to power on the coattails of Trump's 2024 victory, which ushered in an era of unchecked nationalism. With Trump back in the White House, policies like mass deportations and border militarization became the law of the land. Noem, ever the opportunist, volunteered South Dakota as a pilot state for Operation Secure Frontier, a program that embedded ICE agents in local law enforcement with minimal oversight. Reports from human rights organizations such as Amnesty International have documented hundreds of abuses, families torn apart, children left orphaned, and now outright killings. Gonzalez was not the first victim, but she may be the catalyst for change. A mother of 3, she had dedicated her life to immigrant rights, founding a nonprofit that provided legal aid and shelter. Her final act, shielding innocents from Noem's stormtroopers, embodies the resistance that MAGA fears most. Critics of Noem, including former Republican insiders who have defected from the party, paint her as a symptom of a deeper rot. Kristi Noem isn't just tough, she's tyrannical, said whistleblower Jonathan Hale, a former aide in her administration who resigned in protest last year. She views dissent as disloyalty and uses ICE as her blunt instrument to crush it. Hale's testimony, expected in upcoming hearings, alleges that Noem personally approved raid targets, including activists like Gonzalez, whom she labeled radical leftists undermining American sovereignty. This isn't governance, it's gangsterism disguised as patriotism. Noem's defenders predictably cry foul, claiming the impeachment is a witch hunt orchestrated by woke liberals. But facts don't bend to spin. The bodycam footage shows an agent hesitating only briefly before pulling the trigger, a hesitation that screams premeditation under orders from above. As the impeachment proceedings gear up, the nation holds its breath. The House vote could come as early as next week, with Democrats holding a slim majority bolstered by a handful of anti-MAGA Republicans crossing the aisle. If successful, it would send shockwaves through the administration, potentially forcing Trump to distance himself from Noem or face his own scrutiny. But beyond politics, this is a moral reckoning. Maria Gonzalez's death illuminates the human cost of Noem's agenda. A woman gunned down for embodying the American ideal of protecting the vulnerable. How many more must die before we dismantle this apparatus of hate? The anti-MAGA movement is mobilizing like never before. Protests are erupting in cities from New York to Los Angeles, with chants of "Impeach Noem now" echoing through the streets. Civil rights groups are filing lawsuits against ICE, demanding an independent investigation into the raid. And in South Dakota, Gonzalez's community is rallying, turning grief into action by establishing a memorial fund in her name to continue her work. This is the power of resistance, the unyielding spirit that Noem and her ilk cannot extinguish. In the end, Kristi Noem's legacy will not be one of strength, but of shame. She has betrayed the very principles of justice and humanity that define America. By turning ICE into a death squad, she has invited her own downfall. Congress's move to impeach is a bold strike against tyranny, a declaration that no one, not even a MAGA poster child, is above the law. We must stand firm, demand justice for Maria Gonzalez, and ensure that Noem's reign of terror ends here. Follow so we can stay connected. Your support matters more than you know, and I appreciate every moment you give to listen. Your support is important to me, and it helps me a lot. It keeps me active, bringing you important information with your support and comments, likes and shares. Feel free to like, support, and subscribe. I will always provide content for you. I appreciate every support you give. Crowning Thoughts, True Speaker, copyright 2025 by Santiago DC Maria, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution. I love you all and I appreciate each of you. Stay blessed. Thank you for listening. Love always. Santiago DC Maria.